So here's the second coming. All right, here comes Jesus on the clouds. We've got this 75-day interval, which presumably a lot of these things are going to happen. But what does he do in Matthew 25? Matthew 25, you got the separation of the sheep and the goats. Right?
During that period, right there.
Right. I believe it's in the 75-day interval.
Sure.
And then the millennium is set up, somewhere here.
So the sheep go into the millennium?
Yeah, the sheep go into the millennium. And what happens to the goats?
They probably go to hell.
To the pit right now.
Well, where is that? Where is that?
It's not on earth.
Where the Antichrist and the
do they go to this place called Hades?
No,
or do they go in Gehenna?
It's not the lake of fire.
Not yet.
Deep pit.
Not yet.
No.
Why?
It's a
It's
holding.
just hell. It's just a holding place.
A place where you can put a seal on them and you can't get out.
Okay.
But they're out of the picture as far as living on earth for 1,000 years.
Oh,
okay.
Good man.
Thank you. Yeah, that'll do it. Okay. So, but look where it says. It says, then he will say to those on the left hand, depart from me, you cursed, into the everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his angels.
Where did you see that?
Verse 41. Right there. So, into the everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his angels. And then he says it again.
But that's not the lake of fire.
How do we know that?
Well, hell is not very comfortable. They talk about a lot of heat there.
It's an awful place. But
yeah.
I mean, we have basically two places that we understand.
Because Hades is emptied and thrown into the lake of fire.
Okay.
So there's a sequence.
But so what do these people, I mean, are they dumped into the lake of fire later?
Yeah.
I looked the first two in were the Antichrist and the false prophet.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
We know about that from, because just, I don't know, days or hours before Revelation 19:19, it says, the beast was captured, and with him the false prophet who worked signs in his presence, and these two were cast alive into the lake of fire burning with brimstone.
So are you saying the goats, and maybe you're probably
at
right,
that time go into the lake of fire?
do the goats start making sure that the false prophet and the Antichrist aren't going to be alone then for that 1,000 years?
Well, yeah, we've generally assumed that they're going to,
be alone.
have a private suite for 1,000 years.
Yes, but this indicates maybe not.
Well, that's what seems to be
You hit
saying.
that lake of fire, you're done. Isn't that
Well,
the final?
Yeah, that's your final destiny,
He's got a heck of a good point here.
Yeah.
And then if you look at Daniel 7, it says, then I watched because of the sound of the pompous words which the horn was speaking. I watched till the beast was slain and its body destroyed and given to the burning flame. So this is Gehenna.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. As for the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season of time. So these other beasts, these demons and Satan are thrown into the pit. Okay, they're thrown into the pit for 1,000 years. But the beast and the false prophet are thrown immediately into the lake of fire. Yeah, it's done and over. Okay. Now, what is this place? Well, Jesus said that it was prepared for Satan and his angels, and we read in Isaiah 24. Isaiah 30, verse 33. For Tophet was established of old, yes, for the king it is prepared. He has made it deep and large. Its fire with much wood. The breath of the Lord, like a stream of brimstone, kindles it. So this is what was prepared for Satan and his angels. And if you look at Jeremiah 7:31, and they have built the high places of Tophet, which is in the valley of the son of Gehenna, to burn their sons and their daughters in the fire, which I did not command, nor did it come into my heart. So the valley of Hinnom is Gehenna. This is it.
But that's just the Malchus type, getting rid of the babies type thing, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. It says Tophet was established of old. Tophet and Gehenna are the same place. And then you got to look at Isaiah 66:24. They shall go forth and look upon the corpses of the men who have transgressed against me. For their worm does not die, and their fire is not quenched. They shall be inhorrible to all flesh. That's the same language that Jesus uses, where he says it's better to cut off your hand than to go into the hellfire, which is the word Gehenna there. where their worm does not die and the fire is not quenched. So, I've just been rethinking this. I'm thinking, well, is it that everyone's collected first into Hades and then they're dumped at the end at the Great White Throne, or is it that people go there, little here, little there, and people go there at different times? It's not that everyone's just kind of waiting there to be judged, but they are judged. And it says that all judgment has been committed to the Lord Jesus.
I don't think it's going to be enough to get you out of this.
Well, I've got more.
Well, but you haven't answered this question yet about... okay, the last enemy is death. But,
yeah.
But how late are they still having death?
All the way through the millennium.
All the way through the millennium.
All the way through the millennium.
Yeah.
So those who die towards the end have missed the white throne judgment?
No. What I'm thinking is that the white throne judgment is God's white throne. He just happens to sit on it. Now, look what's happening. When you come into God's presence, it may not be a very pleasant experience.
Are you saying it's a process
I
instead
know
of
what
an
you're trying
event?
to say. You're saying this is going on the entire time.
Yeah.
It's not showing one activity.
Exactly.
It's just there,
Yeah.
and if you're uncovered, you die.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a continuous process.
It's a process instead of an event?
I would say it seems to be a continuous process. Court is always open.
That's awesome.
Because there's a lot of events that have to take place and we can't sequence them.
Yeah. And of course, with God, He's good at doing multiple things. He's multitasking, So, but notice here, a fiery stream issued and came forth from before Him. All right? So that fire that's coming out of God, when you come into contact with that, it's lights out, right? But you're not just left there to be tormented, in His presence right there, but you're segregated to this place called Tophet. And if you look in Revelation 14:10, it says, those who take the mark, he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. So we see that. We see in 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, verse 9, these shall be punished with everlasting destruction from the presence of the Lord and from the glory of His power. The Greek word, therefore, from, is apo. Apo can mean to separate yourself from, but it can also mean on account of or by virtue of. For example, he died from hypothermia. Okay? What killed him? Hypothermia. So their destruction, it's not that they're separated from God. No. Their destruction is by virtue of the presence of the Lord. That's what's actually destroying them. It's being in God's presence. They can't get away. Right? And they don't have their garment of salvation on. And what is it to them? It's absolute torment.
But they're not separated yet from God.
There is no separation. There's no separation. It's exposure that kills you. Well, torments you. It's the exposure. Now, there's this place called Tophet. We read about it in Isaiah 66, that there on the earth, apparently, they shall go forth and look. Look at, from one Sabbath to another, he says. For as the new heavens and the new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me, says the Lord, so shall your descendants and your name remain. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, all flesh shall come to worship before me, says the Lord. They shall go forth and look upon the corpses of the men who transgress against me, for their worm does not die and their fire is not quenched. They shall be the horse of all flesh. Where is this happening? This isn't like in the other side of the galaxy. It's apparently right here on earth. And this is the same language that Jesus uses to talk about Gehenna. So, this is happening right then and there. So we can't just throw out this verse or do as some of the commentators, well, I think Isaiah was confused. Nonsense! God wasn't confused. I think I know who's the confused party. It's the commentator. Yeah.
That isn't what Walford said.
No, not Walford.
No.
No, Kyle and Dalish.
Okay.
They said that Isaiah was confused. Yeah. Well, we should take a little break here, a little hafsakah. Whew. All right, round one is done. Ding! Yes.
Well, everybody's just pretty well wrestling now. I just was wondering about the 1,000 years, the people that are left on this earth. You know, that's us hopefully will be in the heavens, right? But the
No.
people,
During the millennium?
during the millennium, the people left on the earth.
Yeah.
Those people, now what kind of state is this person in? And then Satan is bound for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
And he's kind of contained. But man is not, and these people on earth have not received Jesus.
Correct.
They're good people.
Right.
They were kind to the Jews, gave
Right.
them water,
Right.
food, whatever. But they have not received Christ. So what state are they restored back to? Are they like pre? But they can't be pre-fall.
Well, let's see. That is, what week is that?
Oh.
I mean, we can jump ahead,
I know. Okay.
but you know. No, it's fun. I mean, I wish I could answer it all at once. You know, I'll give you the quick answer is that we're not up in heaven. Heaven has come down.
We're not, the Christians are not up in heaven?
Where's heaven?
On earth, I guess.
It's the New Jerusalem, right? Right. So to get into the New Jerusalem, you got to meet the requirements. That's true. But once you're granted access, it says, "Blessed are those who keep my commandments, that they may enter into the city through the gates and have the right to the tree of life." So the tree of life and the river of life are going to be what's going to restore people. Well, let's take a break. Yeah.
But those are the ones that got into the city.
Well, maybe we should.
Keep on going.
Yeah, maybe we should keep on going, because I think as we're gonna take a whole day, and when we get to November 14th, we'll talk about the different judgments. I have them all listed for us, and I think as we go through the class, maybe some of the questions will be answered. You know, hopefully. Yeah, maybe we can. We'll keep working on our timeline. Okay, we're doing this together, guys.
I think you were going to raise more questions than you had.
Well, good. Then we will have learned something.
The answer, right?
All right, so we let's see here. So we talk about the shaking. All right, now we're looking at Habakkuk. Well, let me start there in 2 Peter 3:10. I'll read it again. We've talked about it, but the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night. Right. So the day of the Lord is described as coming very suddenly, unexpectedly. Paul tells us in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. He says, "Brethren, you have no need that I should write to you concerning the day of the Lord, for you yourselves know that it will come as a thief." Or you have no need that I should write to you concerning the times and the seasons, for you yourself know that the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night to those who are in darkness. Right? But you are not in darkness for that to overtake you as a thief. You are all sons of the light. Jesus says here in Revelation chapter 3, "Remember therefore how you received and heard, hold fast, repent. Therefore if you will not watch, I will come upon you as a thief, and you will not know what hour I come upon you." So the whole thief thing is for those that aren't looking. It's for the world, the non-believer. "Behold, I am coming as a thief. Blessed is he who watches and keeps his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame." And there, Paul says again, "For you yourselves know the perfect the day of the Lord so comes as a thief in the night. But you, brethren, are not in darkness, so that this day should overtake you as a thief. You are all sons of light and sons of the day. We are not of the night nor of the darkness." So this day is coming. We're told to watch. Jesus says, "Watch. If the master of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he'd be ready. Watch, therefore. You neither know the day nor the hour when the Son of Man is coming." We say that the great day is coming. These demons have been reserved under these chains of darkness for the great day. And then we read back in Habakkuk. He stood and surveyed the earth. He looked and startled the nations. If you're startled, you weren't expecting it, right? You're like, whoa, I didn't see that coming, right? That's like the thief in the night thing. Yes, the perpetual mountains were shattered. The ancient hills collapsed. His ways are everlasting. So Habakkuk is talking about the same thing, the return of the king. But he gives us all, we find lots of details of what it's going to look like when Jesus comes back. The New Testament gives us very little, actually. The Old Testament is just chocked full of it, of the descriptions of what it's going to look like, what he's going to do. Behold, the day of the Lord comes, cruel with both wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate. And he will destroy its sinners from it. For the stars of heaven and their constellations will not give their light. The sun will be darkened in its going forth. And the moon will not cause its light to shine. I will punish the world for its evil and the wicked for their iniquity. I will halt the arrogance of the proud and lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. I will make a mortal more rare than fine gold, a man more than the gold wedge of Ophir. And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness, the moon into blood, before the coming of the great and awesome day of the Lord. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. The sun and the moon will grow dark, and the stars will diminish their brightness. The Lord also will roar from Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem. The heavens and earth will shake, but the Lord will be a shelter for his people and the strength of the children of Israel. Interesting. Maybe people have been asking me, well, how is it going to be if the heavens and earth are recreated at the beginning? How is it that those who remain on the earth won't be destroyed with it? Well, it says the Lord will be a shelter for his people and the strength of the children of Israel. So whoever is Israel or is with Israel is going to be protected. Seems to be the case. So this day of the Lord thing is when he's going to actually destroy the earth, because the earth is destroyed by virtue of the plagues that come upon it and by virtue of his return. So again, just to kind of press the point here, but the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens will pass away with a great noise, and the elements will melt with fervent heat. Both the earth and the works that are in it will be burned up. So as we were, discussing Revelation 20, verse 11, I saw a great white throne, and him was seated on it, from whose face the earth and heaven fled away. Well, when did it flee away? Well, when he came back. That's when those things fled away, and that's what we keep seeing in the text, that the heavens are going to be shaken, the earth is going to be shaken, they're going to pass away. The Lord coming with fire. Isaiah 66, for behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword the Lord will judge all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. There again in Joel. 2 Thessalonians, and to give you who are troubled rest with us when the Lord Jesus is revealed from heaven with his mighty angels in flaming fire, taking vengeance on those who do not know God and on those who do not obey the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ. How is he going to come back? With fire, yeah? Now, is that just allegorical, figurative kind of talk? No. It's just figurative language, No, it's literal. God is a flaming fire, right? Our God is a consuming fire. What did we see in Ezekiel? That he saw above the cherubim, above the firmament. It says he saw the likeness of a throne, and on the likeness of a throne he saw the likeness of Adam, high above it. And from his waist upward the appearance of electricity mingled with fire. And from his waist down the same thing. Fire. What does Daniel say? A fiery stream issued from before him. Remember, this is why we can't hang out with God right now? Yeah. Because you get zapped and you get burnt. And that's what's going to happen to the unbeliever, is they're going to get just tormented. There's nowhere to hide anymore. This is why the men go into the caves of the rocks and they say, fall on us from the terror of the Lord, from the face of the Lamb, because He's coming back. This is why the children of Israel said, Moses, you go up the mountain. We're not stupid, right? You go. We're going to stay down here. Because what was happening to that mountain? It was smoking. It was on fire. That's what happens when the holy, righteous, uncorrupted, incorruptible God comes and touches this corruptible earth. And that's why we had to talk about what in Romans chapter 8, how the very earth, the creation itself is corrupted, even in the very rocks. There's corruption. So when He comes and touches this earth, end of story. Okay, big trouble. Big trouble. So, okay, the demons and Satan bound and released later. It shall come to pass in that day that the Lord will punish on high the host of exalted ones on the earth, the kings of the earth. They'll be gathered together as the prisoners are gathered in the pit. And after many days will be punished. He laid hold of the dragon, the serpent of old, who is the devil and Satan, bound him for 1,000 years, and he cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal on him, that he should deceive the nations no longer till the 1,000 years were finished. But after these things he must be released for a little while. Now I kept thinking, well, how long is a little while? God, why didn't you just tell us? Why do you make it so enigmatic, I think I found the clue. I'll let you guys be the judge and jury of that, though. So Daniel chapter 7, what verse was that? I don't know. Okay. So here you've got the beast was slain, its body destroyed and given to the burning flame. That's the same as Revelation chapter 19, right? And it says, as for the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. Now the word time here, we find that elsewhere, don't we? We find time, times, and half a time, right? Which we're told is 1,260 days, which we're told is 42 months. Okay? So a time must be a year. A time, times, and half a time. That's a year. It's the same word. So, and the season, that must be the 1,000 years, yes? Because they're thrown in for 1,000 years. It's prolonged for a season and a time. So I would suggest that the brief period that Satan is released is a year. That gives him, I suppose, sufficient time to go out and, do his dirty business. But doesn't, if that's the case, look how patient God is. All right, you get a year. Go do your stuff. You get a year, and if people will follow you, fine. I mean, it's amazing. And he has sufficient time, apparently, to go and to convince the entire, well, not the entire world, but many in the world to come with him. He'll go out to receive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, and gather them together to battle, whose number is as the sand of the sea. They went up on the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints in the beloved city. And fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. Now this camp of the saints, well, there's just too much to talk about, I have to say. The camp of the saints is what is talked about in Ezekiel chapters 40 through 48, basically. But so you have the camp of the saints of the Jews, and the beloved city. What's that city? Well, it's the New Jerusalem. And notice here, and fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. Now, it's not that God is way up there in heaven as we understand it today. Heaven, aka God's abode, has come down here. And he just happens to be sitting at the top. How do we know that? Because we're told that, right? Where did Satan want to ascend to? To the mountain of the congregation, right? He wants to sit on the farthest sides of the north to show that he's the head honcho. But who's up there already? Sorry, throne's taken. Right? God's already on the throne. I'm not moving. Sorry, I'm not moving my throne for you. Right? Down with you. So he's on there. He's on this mountain already, the mountain, the holy mountain of the Lord. So he's already there, and now this is his last attempt to take the city. And now, is there some big battle? I don't see any. I just see smoke, just poof, right? And we've talked about the millennial sacrifices that are going to take place. Why would there be blood sacrifices in the millennium? What's the point? I mean, kill some animals just to remember? I don't know. Seems kind of weak a little bit. I submit that the blood sacrifices are a very necessary condition, because those who remain mortals will need some kind of a covering, an atonement, if you will, to be able to exist in close proximity to God's glory. They need a spacesuit. They need a hazmat suit. They need a force field. And that's what the blood is going to do. It's going to actually give them a protection, a covering. It's a provisional covering until they make up their minds. And obviously, once the 1,000 years are ended, well, I don't know if it's obvious, but it's apparent that the sacrifices end. And guess what? You get close to the city, you're going to get burned, right? You play with fire, you're going to get burned. So here, God's just up there, He's watching them. He kind of laughs in derision. Why do the nations rage, and plot against His anointed? Here they come. All right, He just lets the fire just comes out, because that's who He is. And if you get too close without your hazmat suit on, you're toasted. So there's no final battle here. They're prepared for battle, but there's no battle that takes place. It's just God's fire comes down from heaven, boom, they're done. Okay. Now the other thing to keep in mind, and this is, of course, ties in with our discussion from before. See this word right here, then? Did you know that is not in the Greek? And so many translations have the word then. Now why do I point that out? See, it's the word kai. Kai just means and. There's another word for then, it's tote. Why not use that word if he wants to say then? So I don't know why the translators did that. I mean, I kind of understand, but I think they should have stuck with the word and. Because it kind of gives this impression that, well, this and then this and then this. But really what's happening is, I saw this, and I saw this, and I saw this, and I saw this.
Seems like a sequence.
Yeah. The then puts it in the sequence. It sounds like, well, this is going to happen, then this is going to happen, then this is going to happen. But it's no. I saw this, and I saw this, and I saw this, but I can only tell you them one at a time. Okay? So that's why I think the Great White Throne is more of a, the court's open every day. And He's just giving, He sees this is one of the last visions He sees. Getting close anyway. And He kind of describes, this courtroom. Okay, here's the courtroom. Here's what's going to happen in court. Your day in court will look something like this. Right? And you got these books, the book of life. And if you're in the sea, that's going to give them up. Death and Hades deliver up those who are in them. And what's fascinating is that death and Hades were cast into the lake of fire, which is interesting. It almost sounds like they are entities.
Yeah, I think they are. Because you wouldn't talk about casting out concept. I'm not going to cast a concept.
Yeah. So, all right. Anyway.
Death and Hades won't be necessary anymore.
Yeah, they won't be necessary. They won't be welcomed.
They'll be absorbed.
Yeah.
By the lake of fire, because that's the abode
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah.
Hades won't be necessary
Are you talking about Hades as a place or Hades as an entity?
as a place.
Okay. Yeah. I wonder if it could be an entity, though, because, God mocks them in Hosea, "O death, where is your sting?" Right? So it's almost like he's kind of talking to this one. He's also known as Abaddon, the destroyer. And in the book of Job it talks about them as well. Well, okay, so heavens shake, earth burned, seas blood. So he showed these wonders. We already read that. For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. The sun and moon will grow dark. We read that as well. I was just trying to pair these so that you could see them next to each other. And the first angel sounded, and hail and fire followed, mingled with blood, and they were thrown into the earth, and the third of the trees were burned up, and all green grass was burned up. Then the second angel sounded, and something like a great mountain with fire was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood. Then the fourth angel sounded, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them were dark, and a third of the day did not shine, likewise the night. And I will show wonders in heaven above, and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor and smoke. The sun will return to darkness, and the moon into blood, before the coming of the great and awesome day of the Lord. And then 2D, lift up your eyes to the heavens and look on the earth beneath, for the heavens will vanish away like smoke. The earth will grow old like a garment, and those who dwell in it will die in like manner. But my salvation will be forever, and my righteousness will not be abolished. The mountains melt like wax at the presence of the Lord, at the presence of the Lord of the whole earth. I beheld the earth, and indeed it was without form and void, and the heavens, they had no light. Of old you laid the foundation of the earth, and the heavens are the work of your hands. They will perish, but you will endure. Yes, they will all grow old like a garment, like a cloak. You will change them, and they will be changed. Bow down your heavens, O Lord, and come down, touch the mountains, and they shall smoke. Moreover, the Lord who rules over all says, in just a little while I will once again shake the sky and the earth and the sea and the dry ground. This is going to be kind of scary when the Lord comes back. I'm a little bit nervous already. Now, here we got something in Matthew. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, but my Father only. Now, I put a note in there. Which day? Well, it seems to be the day when the heavens and earth pass away. And that is because it happens when Jesus returns. So, why did the heavens and earth pass away? On account of His return. And that appears to be the day in which the heaven and earth are going to pass away. If I'm reading that correctly, maybe not. I don't know. But the heavens and the earth, which are now preserved by the same word, are reserved for fire until the day of judgment and perdition of godly men. So the heavens and earth are preserved, and they're reserved for fire until when? The day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. And as of course we read on there, the day of the Lord comes as a thief in the night, which we read. Nevertheless, we, according to His promise, look for new heavens and a new earth in which righteousness dwells. So the righteousness, we read about that in Isaiah chapter 11. There shall come forth a rod from the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. His delight is in the fear of the Lord, and He shall not judge by the sight of His eyes, nor decide by the hearing of His ears. But with righteousness He shall judge the poor, and decide with equity for the meek of the earth. He shall strike the earth with the rod of His mouth, and the breath of His lips He shall slay the wicked. Righteousness shall be the belt of His loins, and faithfulness the belt of His waist. So this is the time that Peter was talking about. You see, 1st and 2nd Peter were written to the Jews. They were written to the elect, who are the Jews. And 1st and 2nd Peter are just chock full of references to the Old Testament that you would need a fairly sophisticated audience to understand all these allusions he keeps mentioning. They're all over the place. So what they're looking to, so he's making reference to the so-called Messianic Age, or what we call the Millennium. And of course, this is the time when the wolf was going to dwell with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the young goat, the calf and the young lion, and the fatling together. A little child shall lead them, the cow and the bear shall graze, the young ones shall lie down together, the lion shall eat straw like the ox, etc. And it says, they shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain. Fascinating. We'll talk more about that later. But, so this is that time. In Hebrews, you, Lord, in the beginning laid the foundation of the earth, and the heavens are the work of your hands. They will perish, but you remain, and they will all grow old like a garment, like a cloak. You will fold them up, and they will be changed. But you are the same, and your years will not fail. Oof, I love it. All right, so let's look at the parousia. In other words, the coming of the Lord. Oh boy. Are we all together?
Yeah.
Okay. 3. It's number 3. When God returns. Behold, the Lord is riding on a swift cloud and comes to Egypt, and the idols of Egypt will tremble at his presence, and the heart of the Egyptians will melt within them. Where do we see God riding on a swift cloud? Where else do we see that? Isaiah 66, verse 15. Remember that? We saw that just up above there. Isaiah 66, 15. Okay, for the Lord will come with fire and with his chariots like a whirlwind to render his anger and fury. By the way, God really does have a chariot. Okay?
And horses.
And horses.
Yeah, what?
Now, why does God need horses and chariots?
He likes
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Because he likes them. He doesn't need them. But it looks cool. You know? You gotta come with style, you know? Can't come on foot. He's a great king, you know? I think I'll make something to carry me around, you know? I could do it myself, but there's not much class in that, you know? Yeah, he's a great king. So, you know, and what we find is, you know, remember in 2 Kings 20, where Elijah and his servant are surrounded by the Syrians, and his servant wakes up in the morning, oh, Master, what are we going to do? Oh, Lord, just open his eyes, right? Yeah. And they see the horses and chariots of fire. So the angels, or demons, right, or both, apparently go around in chariots too. I don't know why. They got wings. Why do they need wings, right? Why do angels need wings anyway? So, see, we've made a lot of assumptions about that realm that we think are true. Well, you can think and you're there. Well, maybe you can, maybe you can't. Maybe you got to somehow be transported with a chariot or with wings. You know, so I think that we've kind of made some assumptions that are not necessarily true. But anyway, pardon? Yeah, we're going to come back on horses. Maybe you should take lessons now.
I'm doing that.
Good. You're going to be like ahead of them. Wait up! How'd you get so good? You said take lessons. All right, another great passage talking about when the Lord comes back. Isaiah 63. Who is this who comes from Eden in crimson garments and from Bozrah? He who is splendid in his apparel, marching in the greatness of his strength. Remember there in Revelation 19 where the heavens are going to open up and Jesus is on his horse and the armies of heaven are following behind him? Jude says that the Lord comes with 10,000s of his saints, which we also find in the book of Deuteronomy. It's going to be glorious. Ooh, it's going to be good. It is I, speaking in righteousness, mighty to save. Who's that? Who speaks in righteousness? Isaiah certainly didn't, right? He said, woe am I. I'm a man of unclean lips, and I dwell among a people of unclean lips. You think Isaiah was bad? You should see his people, right? Why is your apparel red, and your garments like his who treads in the winepress? I have trodden the winepress alone, and from the peoples no one was with me. I trod them in my anger and trampled them in my wrath. Their lifeblood splattered on my garments and stained all my apparel. I was reading this one day in theology class, and one of my students was like, this doesn't sound like Jesus. I said, well, it's time to change your understanding of Jesus, because he is a great and mighty warrior. He's not a pushover God. He is a radical king. Ooh, you don't want to be on the wrong side when he comes back. Now, he's loving. We're good. We're glad about that. But, today is the day of salvation. You've got to make your decision. So I trod in my anger and trampled in my wrath. Their lifeblood spattered on my garments and stained all my apparel. For the day of vengeance was in my heart, and my year of redemption has come. I looked, but there was no one to help. I was appalled, but there was no one to uphold. So my own arm brought me salvation. My wrath upheld me. I trampled down the peoples in my anger. I made them drunk in my wrath, and I poured out their lifeblood on the earth. Oh, go, Lord. Man. Okay. Jesus said to them, you have said so, but I tell you, from now on you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven. 2 Thessalonians. Then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord Jesus will kill with the breath of his mouth and bring to nothing by the appearance of his coming. You see how powerful just the appearance of the Lord is? His glory is just going to be enough to destroy his enemies. Then I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. The one sitting on it is called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. His eyes are like a flame of fire, and on his head are many diadems, and he has a name written that no one knows but himself. He is clothed in a robe dipped in blood. Now this isn't Jesus' blood. Okay, some people think, oh, that's the blood of the Lamb. No, it's not. That's the blood of the people he just trampled on. Okay? And the name by which he is called is the Word of God. And the armies of heaven, arrayed in fine linen, white and pure, were following him on white horses. That's us. From his mouth comes a sharp sword with which to strike down the nations, and he will rule them with a rod of iron. He will tread the winepress of the fury of the wrath of God the Almighty. On his robe and on his thigh is a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Then I saw an angel standing in the sun with a loud voice. He called to all the birds that fly directly overhead, come, gather for the great supper of God, to eat the flesh of kings and the flesh of captains, the flesh of the mighty men, the flesh of horses and their riders, and the flesh of all men, both free and slave, both small and great. And I saw the beasts and the kings of the earth with their armies gathered to make war against him who was sitting on the horse and against his army. And the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet who was in its presence, who had done signs by which he deceived those who had received the mark of the beast and would worship its image. These two were thrown alive into the lake of fire that burns with sulfur, and the rest were slain by the sword that came from the mouth of him who was sitting on the horse, and all the birds are gorged with their flesh. Now, if we look at Habakkuk chapter 3, God comes from Teman, and the Holy One from Mount Paran. Selah, his splendor covers the heavens, and the earth is full of his praise. Now, if you read the King James or New King James, it says God came from. But if you look at the Hebrew, it's clearly a future tense. And that is confirmed by the Septuagint, where it's a future tense. So at least the NASB puts it in the present, which has, it has future implications. So the earth is full of his praise. His radiance is like the sunlight. He has rays flashing from his hand, and there is the hiding of his power. Before him goes pestilence, and plague comes after him. He stood and surveyed the earth. He looked and startled the nations. Yes, the perpetual mountains were shattered. The ancient hills collapsed. His ways are everlasting. Did the Lord rage against the rivers? Or was your anger against the rivers? Or was your wrath against the sea that you rode on your horses, on your chariots of salvation? Your bow was made bare. The rods of chastisement were sworn. Selah. You cleaved the earth. Remember that in Isaiah where it says the earth will be split open? Same language. You cleaved the earth with rivers. The mountains saw you and quaked. The downpour of water swept by. The deep uttered forth its voice. It lifted high its hand. Sun and moon stood in their places. They went away at the light of your arrows, at the radiance of your gleaming spear. In indignation you marched to the earth. In anger you trampled the nations. You went forth for the salvation of your people, which is of course Israel, for the salvation of your anointed. You struck the head of the house of the evil to lay him open from high to neck. Selah. You pierced him with his own spears, the head of his throngs. They stormed in to scatter us. Their exultation was like those who devour the oppressed in secret. You trampled on the sea with your horses, on the surge of many waters. Ooh, again. So this is what the coming of the Lord is going to look like. Daniel gives us more insight. I saw in the night visions, behold, with the clouds of heaven there came one like a son of man. And he came to the Ancient of Days and was presented before him. And to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away. And a kingdom, one that shall not be destroyed. As I looked, this horn made war with the saints and prevailed over them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given for the saints of the Most High. And time came when the saints possessed the kingdom. He shall speak words against the Most High, and shall swear out the saints of the Most High, and shall think to change the times and the law, and they shall be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time. But the court shall sit and judge it, and his dominion shall be taken away to be consumed and destroyed in the end. And the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of his kingdoms under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. Their kingdom shall be an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey them. Thoughts? Please, say something. Yes.
Do you think that the unsaved are in hell now, are they just judged throughout the millennium?
Well, again, when we talk about hell now, we're talking about a place called Hades. And we remember back to Luke 17, where the rich man and Lazarus were both in Hades. Lazarus was in the place known as Abraham's bosom, a place of comfort, also known as paradise, whereas the rich man was in a place of torment. So that place of torment, as far as we understand, is going to be emptied out at the Great White Throne Judgment, which I suppose is going to happen after the millennium, as far as I can tell. I don't know. But, will those people remain there during the time of the millennium and then get transferred? But see, the question is, if you, let's say you make it through the tribulation and you're part of the goats, are you put into Hades, or you go, don't pass go, don't collect your $200, you go straight to jail, right? You go straight to the lake of fire. To me, the language seems to say that you're going straight to the lake of fire, because that's the place that was created for Satan and all of his angels. Hades seems to be kind of a pit stop. In fact, the whole thing about Hades, just the more I keep looking at that, Hades and death really seem to be well, they seem to be they seem to be entities. They seem to be entities that are, for example, Job 26:5. Sheol, which is the Hebrew word for that, Sheol, is naked before him, and destruction has no covering. You've got hell and destruction are before the Lord, so how much more the hearts of the sons of men. The word for destruction is Abaddon in Hebrew. And we're told in Revelation 9 And they had as king over them the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, but in Greek he has the name Apollyon. So there's another clue for us. So, all I'm trying to figure out is, are these entities, they seem to be demons. So there's a place known as Hades. There seems to be an angel or a demon known as kind of the Lord of this place. And, he seems to have power. He has the power of death. We're told that Satan has the power of death, but Jesus overcame him. Right? So Jesus says, I have overcome. I have the keys of Hades and death, which is fascinating. So are we talking about, Hades as in I've got the key to the room, or I've got Mr. Hades' keys, It kind of sounds like it's a both scenario. There's an angel named as Hades, and he keeps ward over the people in there, which we would call Hades the place. So that's part of the confusion, at least in my mind, is trying to figure out, is it simply a place, or is it also a person, a demon? And I think it's both.
Yeah, I've always thought that.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's both. But open to further investigation.
The way people picture death.
Yeah, the angel of death, yeah. Yeah, the Grim Reaper kind of idea. Whether he goes around with a black hood on. But there seems to be something to that, at least a little bit, because there Paul says in 1 Corinthians, he says here, as we brought to pass what is written, death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is your sting? O Hades, where is your victory? And this is, of course, taken from Hosea 13. I will ransom them from the power of the grave. I will redeem them from death. O death, I will be your plagues. O grave, I will be your destruction. Pity is hidden from my eyes. Now we could say, well, this is just personification. It's sort of figurative language. That's a possibility, I guess. But I like the other option. I really think that that God is talking to demonic powers that actually have authority over death, because remember, Adam forfeited. He forfeited the earth, he forfeited his life, and he became a slave to death and all of his children with him. Right? So we're in bondage to that because of what Adam did. So, and we know that there are all these demons out there. They're doing all kinds of nasty stuff. So, from the power of the grave, which incidentally in Hebrew, from the hand of Sheol. That's interesting. And the same thing from Mavet. So, it's almost like God is taunting you guys. I'm going to win them back. What does it say in Ephesians? That Jesus, he led captivity captive, making a public spectacle. Remember that? Making a public spectacle of the principalities and powers. Let's see. Okay, sorry. Colossians 2:15. Having disarmed principalities and powers, he made a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them in it. So, these principalities and powers are demons. We know that from Daniel chapter 10. And he did something so radical, and they didn't see it coming. All of a sudden it was checkmate. You're like, whoa, Whoa, where did that come from, And the other thing is he hasn't cleared the board yet. Yeah, you're in checkmate, but I'll let you sit there for a little bit, And then I'm going to wipe you off the board. So he disarmed them. These guys are done. They know it. But they're going to, keep fighting with whatever they have to whatever it takes. All right, so what we see is the heavens and earth are utterly decimated. I hope that's clear. They're decimated. They are kaput. It's lights out for the earth after the tribulation. As if the tribulation weren't bad enough, then Jesus comes. And it's really lights out for the earth. And there's only going to be two sets of heavens and earth. John says, I saw new heavens and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth passed away. So there can't be three. If you're a gap theorist, you believe in four. But there's only two. There are only two. So based on that, if the earth is in such I can't think of the strong enough word to express it, but just such a chaotic, destroyed condition, what will he do for the millennium? Will he leave in that condition? It's going to need some serious work, right? And all the seas have turned to blood, right? All the fish have died. All the mountains have disappeared. The islands have fled away. It's a cesspool. It's disgusting. It's a garbage heap. It's a sewer. You don't want to live on the earth after all that. It's a what? Big biohazard.
Then it's burned up totally.
Yeah. So this is why when he comes back, his presence is going to, apparently, it's going to burn it up. The heavens and earth fled from his face, right? They said, hide us from the face of the Lamb. So that's when that Revelation 20:11 event, I saw a great white throne and him who sat on it, from whose face earth and heaven fled away. That happened at the second coming. This is the one I'm talking about, this guy. Remember the one that I told you about, all these things happen? This is the one sitting on the throne. So we read that differently. Not that it happens when John sees it, but it happens at the second coming. Those are the times when all those things happen. And so that would explain it, the Revelation 20:11 passage. So he has to create new heavens and a new earth at the beginning. Yeah, apparently instantly. I'm still wondering about the 75 days. Does he take a couple days to...
He's got to get rid of his enemies.
Yeah, maybe he destroys the enemies first and then he makes it. Maybe the earth is just kind of melting while he's there. Help, quick, I don't know.
Maybe it'll be in a moment and an instant, like when our bodies are changed.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
Things can be done in the twinkling of an eye.
I'm just guessing because there's not enough scriptures that I've found to give me the right answer. But as you know, those 75 days are divided between the 30 and then 45 more. And to me, there's two functions going on. One is the judgment, but the other is elevating the Israelites to their position.
Interesting, yeah. So the
Jeremiah 31, verse 31 to 34.
Okay.
So that's where the promise is kept for God's new covenant.
Yeah, so the new covenant and the 30 days and the 45 days.
So good things happening and judgments happening.
So you got good things and bad things happening.
Yeah.
Probably, do you think the bad comes first or the good comes first? Don't know, yeah. Yeah.
They both have to get done.
I think he can do several things at a time.
Yeah, he is a good multitasker. Yeah, so maybe he can, I'll do them both at the same time.
Little kids know.
Yeah. Well, we're just trying to figure out all the clues that Scripture gives us. Because he gave them to us for some reason. I don't know. Maybe he could have just said, don't worry about it. I'll tell you when you get there. But he told us all these things. Right? Because he wanted us to know. So that's why I think when we look at all the evidence together, we look at the big picture, then you have to have a new heavens and a new earth at the beginning. So
I'm a number freak. what would you guess would be the population that survived of all those who entered the 7 years? We know how many of the Jews are going to survive. It's going to be a third of them.
Okay, well, I would estimate that probably 750 million people are going to be raptured, roughly 11% of the earth. And then from the estimates that I've seen, it appears that roughly 4/5 of the remaining population will be wiped out.
Just by going through the 21 judgments of Revelation. But it sounds like...
2/4?
No, 2/3.
2/3?
You said 4/5.
Well, of the entire world.
Right.
Out of the Jews, 2/3 will be destroyed. So actually, it's better than the rest of the world, right? If that's the case.
And after the goats are taken out.
Pardon?
Where did you get the 4/5 from?
Well, it's just looking at all the events, because it's saying a third is going to be wiped out. So a third here and a third there. It's a guesstimate. I don't know, but if I just kind of look at all the different judgments, it seems like in the end you're left with about 1/5 that makes it through. And he says that he's going to make men more rare, more rare than the gold of Ophir. So one time I tried to look up how much gold is there in Ophir, but I don't know. I don't know how to divide it. You divide it by ounces, or I don't know. But
so then, after the goat nations are gone, Israel is a fairly high percentage of the total population then.
Yeah, Israel's quite a bit. Yeah. So, well, guys, thank you. Exciting class. Thank you for participating. And, read up next time on what's coming. So, the new heavens and earth created at the beginning of the millennium, New Jerusalem. We'll talk about Jerusalem as the bride. So, reader 4 through 6 for next week.
And I keep replacing.
And if you have questions about your timeline, let me help.
Oh, is that you got that from somewhere else?